The Numinous Podcast with Carmen Spaniola.
Hi there, and welcome to the Numinous Podcast, where we have interesting conversations with everyday folks about the mystery of life. This podcast is a complement to the Numinous School, an online intuition development course for people who want their self-awareness to serve a greater good. I'm your host, Carmen Spaniola, and this week my guest is Christopher Lloyd Clarke. Christopher is the composer of the music that accompanies all of the meditations in the Numinous School. I connected with Christopher over Skype. He was at home in Australia.
I decided I wanted to be a musician before I even had an instrument, before I was even playing. It was quite a moment. It was one of those turning points in life, and this is going back about 17 or 18 years. I had just left university and I had a crappy job, and I just lost my girlfriend, and I was like in one of those really mopey down points where I had no real sense of life direction. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just sweeping this floor. That was my job at the time. I was sweeping this floor, really feeling sorry for myself. And like a day earlier, I'd just been wandering down the street, and I happened to wander into a music store just because I was bored, and came across this synthesizer, and I ended up spending 3 hours in the shop with the headphones on, just playing all these sounds and going, wow, this thing's amazing. It makes all these different sounds, like it does bass sounds, and it does keyboard sounds, and it does, string sounds, and I didn't think much more about it. I just left, and I was sweeping the floor, and it was one of those moments where, boom, it just hits you. I'm incredibly depressed, and I have no life direction, but I've got a job, so I could buy that synthesizer. And I don't know why. I just decided I had to have that synthesizer because it was so much fun, and it was the only ray of fun that I'd had in that period of my life for months and months and months. And so, and I'd never made music before. I just had to have it. And so, it was, funnily enough, it was around that time that I'd started doing meditation classes. So, yeah, it was just one of those pivotal points, where I was starting to, just the beginning glimpses of getting clear.
So then there was a period where it sounds like you started to emerge, where you started to realize, like, oh, I could maybe share this with the world. So you were, tootling around, jamming on your own, and you start sharing it with the world. How long before you were actually able to make a viable living that way and sort of start selling, and how did you go about that?
I was fortunate to have a bit of money in my back pocket when I left the family business. We sold that, so I had the opportunity to sort of find my feet, and that was 2009. It was a pretty scary year. First time I'd really been out on my own, and pretty much made no money in 2009. So that was just getting the website started, sorting myself out, figuring where I'm going to go, making music the whole time, and a lot of meditation music. Some of my best stuff came out in that year when I wasn't thinking about making music, even professionally. I was just doing what I wanted to do to relax, for myself. And so 2009, pretty much made no money that year. It really only started to gather momentum in 2010. There was like a sort of a year of gestation, and then it just kept accelerating from that point forward. 2010 was that was the point when I started licensing my music. It really just came about because therapists and healers were just saying, can we please use your music in our recording? And I can still remember the first time someone actually asked me to compose music for them. And, when you're at the beginning of something and you don't really have the confidence, you don't really know how it's going to go or be received. And I just still remember him saying, how much will it cost? And I'm thinking, oh, this could take me days. But I sheepishly said, oh, $80? Like, is that going to be all right? And he was like, oh, that's fine, yeah, And I probably spent 3 or 4 days working on it for $8,
Right.
But I didn't care. It was a real job doing, it was my first professional musical composition engagement. And that was after 10 years of making music.
So take me through your creative process. How do songs come, or they're not, I don't want to call them rhythms, but these songs, these soundscapes, how do they come to you?
I don't think anything I say will surprise you in that regard. I meditate. then I go in the studio and I just flap my hands around until something. Yeah, well, I always will meditate. And if for any reason I'm just not getting in the zone, even just before I get in the studio, I just don't even bother.
Mm.
I always try to get into a really good state and feel balanced and connected before I get in the studio. Through that whole process, I'm trying to stay in a pretty relaxed state and just hold that intention of creating music that's that's going to make people feel whole and relaxed. And what I'm looking for, there's a moment that will come in this process where I'm feeling it just talking about it. There's the moment that will happen where um, I am actually structuring the music now. I've got the tones and the sound palette figured out, and I'm composing. And there'll be a moment where I just get this rush of tingles through my whole body, and that's what I look for. It's like a tick box from the universe.
So you've talked a lot about meditation, and in such a way that it almost seems as though well, it sounds very dear to you, like it really came to you at a time when you were pretty down. Tell me a little bit more about that and how meditation came into your life.
I think I had my first little touch of meditation when I was about 4, actually. I used to do this strange thing when I was about 4 years old, where when I first learned that um, people were the result of a sperm going into an egg. And you learn the basic birds and bees when you're a little kid. And I remember, and I would sit around and I kept trying to wrap my head around, when did I become me? And and my way of trying to figure that out was going back in time and back, and I knew that I'd grown from this little tiny cell and I could conceptualize that. And I kept trying to imagine the moment when the sperm went in the egg and life began. And I was doing that at 4. And what would happen is there'd be these moments where I would disappear, and I don't know how long for. I have no clue. I would just go empty, and I'd come back, and I'd be like, "Oh, I had the answer. Where did it?" Later on, yeah, look, life takes its toll. I had family life wasn't so great. I'd had my share of heartbreaks and all your typical growing up sort of stuff. And I guess I just got to no great, terrible tragedy, but I was a very sensitive young man, and I just reached a point where I was just exceptionally stressed and depressed, and I didn't know that I didn't even know what depression and anxiety and those sorts of things were back then. But I was really depressed and anxious, and my mum, thank goodness, was quite also a sensitive person, and even though I wasn't living at home, at this point she recognised that I wasn't right, and she'd done a meditation course out of the blue, and she just said, "Come and do this meditation course with me. I'll pay for it." And I was like, and I started this course, and once a week, and it took 3 weeks. It was the third week we were doing a meditation in the class, and I had another one of these just bolt moments where I was like, this is what you've been looking for your whole life. This is the answer. This quiet space is what you've been searching for this whole time. And so I remember that moment with such a sense of just love and fondness, and that was so special.
So it sounds too like you've had some significant synchronicities and that beautiful lining up of moments and people and opportunity. And I'm curious what meaning do you make of that? What do you think is going on?
um, to me, that's just life showing you the way. And it's funny, I've been pondering those subjects lately because there's a heck of a lot of that sort of synchronicity going on at the moment. I can just feel all sorts of life forces coalescing into just new momentum at the moment. It's so exciting. But sometimes I get carried away and I'm like, oh, I can see this thing's coming up. And there have been a lot of discussions at home with my partner Susie lately about divine timing. And, you can want a thing and you can taste it and you can have all that enthusiasm, but some of these things that I can see coming, it's just not time, you know. but I've got free will, so why can't I just go and make it happen? And so your question's something that's been floating around here a lot lately. These synchronicities, to me, yeah, I guess they're just, you can only stray so far from your life path before gives you a helping hand.
This is true, right? And I wonder
Yeah.
too, I sometimes think that, well, what I take is from those synchronicities is that there does seem to be an overlighting pattern or some sort of beautiful design to the universe. And so when I notice the synchronicities, it sort of helps me locate myself as being on my path. And I think it reinforces my faith that there is a larger unfoldment, and I am playing a part, and I don't have to try that hard because things are just
That's
happening.
the best message you can. I think that's the best conclusion that can come from it. Is it's that whole thing of letting go, and I feel the same way that the universe is not chaos and random, and it is a funny thing. You've got free will. You can play it out however you like,
Yeah.
but there's a current flowing through your life, and you can push against it or you can go with it, and life will be effortless. And yeah, last couple of years have been a good example of that. I've been trying to get this new website up and running, a new royalty-free website, um, and yeah, a lot of things have gone wrong with that process.
Oh.
But now that I'm at the tail end of it, I look back and I can just see how, wow, if I'd launched that back then, that would not have worked out,
Right.
and I just was not in a good headspace at that point there, and I was pushing, I was pushing too hard to get this across the line, and calamity ensued. so, so and now that I'm just sort of taking a more relaxed approach to it, yeah, everything's flowing. Yeah.
Nice. So the last question on the Numinous podcast is traditionally taken from the Proust questionnaire, and the question is, Christopher, what do you consider perfect happiness?
Perfect happiness to me, it's something that arises naturally when you're in a state of peace, stillness, stillness. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, I've definitely felt that you can feel the love and the stillness and the equanimity in the music coming through, and the maker, sort of having just a little bit of a fingerprint there on everyone. So thank you very much for your art.
Oh, you're most welcome.
He makes a great point there about synchronicity. You can only stray so far off your life path before the universe is going to let you know. I really enjoyed that conversation. I feel like I got to meet, uh, the man behind the woman in my business, because music plays such an important role in all of my work, and I use all of Christopher's music. You can find his music at royaltyfreemeditationmusic.com. And if you'd like to learn more about Christopher, you can go to the show notes on my website, carmenspagnola.com, CarmenSpagnola. And I really appreciate Christopher's coming on my show, and thank you so much for spending this time with us. I would like to say hello to the listeners in Vietnam. I am profoundly touched that you are downloading. I don't know if you're like backpackers who are like checking your iPhones in train stations, or maybe you're expats that are trying to, connect with something greater than yourself in this culture that you don't know. I have no idea what you're doing there, but I do imagine it, and I feel like I'm speaking to you right. I'm speaking to you right now, saying thank you so much for spending time with me, and I'm sending you helping angels. And if you are a born and bred Vietnamese person listening, and you're listening in a second language, English, I bow to you deeply. It's amazing. Thank you. If you'd like to keep exploring the great mystery of life with me, you can go to my website, carmenspagnola.com, and click the link for the Numinous School. my online intuition development program. And while you're there, sign up for my newsletter. You'll instantly receive a meditation download, and I'll let you know whenever I publish a new episode. Until next time, take care.